Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Frost, and welcome to the 8th instalment of our online seminar series called Getting Through the Crisis Together, Asian Dialogues on Sustainability in the Textile and Garment Industry. This 8th dialogue is brought to you, as always, by GIZ FABRIC, but also for today's dialogue, also brought in partnership to you by the ILO's Decent Work in Garment Supply Chains Asia project. And representatives from both organisations will join us for some welcoming remarks in a moment. Our topic today is how social dialogue can help us get through the crisis together. And to discuss this, we have representatives from a trade union in Myanmar, a German brand, an Indonesian and Bangladesh factory. So we're all over the place today, and I'll introduce our 4 guests in greater detail as I start our conversation with them. But to get proceedings underway, I'd like to call upon Alexandra Benz. Alexandra is the coordinator of regional cooperation for GIZ FABRIC. GIZ FABRIC is fostering and advancing sustainable business and responsible industrial practices in the clothing industry in Asia. Over to you, Alexandra.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and good afternoon from China. My name is Alexandra Behns, and I would like to welcome you all on behalf of GIZ, the German Agency for International Cooperation and Development, and in particular on behalf of our FABRIC project. FABRIC is a regional project that GIZ implements on behalf of the BMZ, the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. We are working in 6 countries in Asia, in Bangladesh, Pakistan, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, and China. And we foster regional collaboration to promote sustainability in the textile and garment industry in Asia. So what does it mean? We are all about connecting people, facilitating the transfer of knowledge, and sharing good practices. And we do that working on the regional level, also at the national levels in the countries. And we also implement in factories in some of the project countries. And I will mention a bit more about that in just a minute. On the regional level, one of our key partners is the STAR network of 9 regional producer associations, and I'm very glad to see some of them on our participant list today and would like to extend a very warm welcome to the STAR network members. Also on the regional level, FABRIC has been implementing a conference series called the Asian Dialogues for Sustainability for many years now. And based on the experiences with this conference series and also in response to COVID-19, we decided to start this online seminar series, as Stephen said, called Getting Through the Crisis Together. And in total, we're planning maybe 12 online seminars. Today is already the 8th seminar, and each session will look at different aspects of the COVID-19 pandemic's impact on textile and garment production in Asia. And why did we start this series? We wanted to offer an opportunity for the different stakeholders in the industry to exchange their experiences on dealing with the crisis, on lessons learned, how we can make this industry more resilient and move out of this crisis. So as you can tell, collaboration is very much at the heart of both the GIZ FABRIC project, but also of this online seminar series. And since, as I mentioned, we are very much about connecting initiatives and fostering partnerships, I'm very glad that for today's online seminar, we are collaborating once more with the ILO's regional project on decent work in the garment sector, supply chains in Asia. We have already collaborated on a number of online seminars with the ILO, and I'm very glad that we are doing this one together again. And we are also very delighted that 2 of our project partners from GIZ FABRIC in Myanmar, and now we are at the implementation level that I mentioned before, are joining this event today and will share their experiences specifically from our project work on social dialogue. And that refers to Gladys Tang from Chibo on the one hand, and also to Aung from IWFM. And I will give you a quick background on that collaboration. So Chibo, GIZ FABRIC, and IWFM have been working together in a social dialogue project in Myanmar already since 2017, because we all share the vision to achieve better working conditions in the Asian garment factories. And the objective of this joint project is to jointly develop a new approach to empower workers and management, specifically in Chibo supplier factories, to engage in dialogue for joint solutions. And on the sectoral level, about which we will hear a bit more later from Gladys and also from Mark Khaing, the social dialogue project really contributed to wider change by supporting factory managers in negotiating and implementing a sectoral freedom of association guideline with IWFM. So this freedom of association, or FOA guideline, aims to fill gaps in the national labor legislation and gives workers, trade unions and managers a hands-on frame to access their rights. And with each round of negotiation, we could see real social dialogue happening, with often difficult discussions, however, good faith prevailing. I personally would like to congratulate the successful process of the guideline as a key tool to achieve more stable industrial relations in Myanmar. And I'm also looking forward to learning more today about how this negotiation platform actually served as a basis to establish brand, employer, trade union dialogue to work towards protecting factories and workers from the worst impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic in Myanmar's garment and footwear industry. I'm also very much looking forward to hearing more from Apindo in Indonesia and Hoplun in Bangladesh. And I'm very glad that we found 3 good practice cases from the region. As I mentioned, one from Myanmar, one from Indonesia, and one from Bangladesh, and representatives who agreed to speak on our online seminar. And therefore, I would like already to extend a very warm welcome to our 4 speakers, and thank you very much for making the time on your busy schedules. And I'm very much looking forward to this seminar and hearing more from you. And with that, I would now like to hand over to my colleague, John Richot, from ILO's Decent Work in the Garment Sector Supply Chains in Asia project. John is a specialist on social dialogue and labor administration from the ILO team in Bangkok, and he will give us a short thematic introduction right now. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and over to you, John.
Thank you very much, Alexandra, and thank you to the organizers, participants, and panelists for sharing your valuable time and experiences. As you can see, my name is John Richot. I'm a labor relations specialist currently based in the ILO team in Bangkok. I have been working on issues of social dialogue, labor relations, and dispute resolution in Southeast Asia since around 2005. And I also lead the social dialogue and industrial relations component of the ILO Sweden regional program, which is co-hosting today's online seminar. As was mentioned previously, this is the 8th event in the virtual series, Asian Dialogues on Sustainability, and the 3rd to be jointly convened with the ILO as part of a growing portfolio of collaboration in the garment sector between our 2 agencies. The ILO Sweden program was launched in 2019 with the goal of bringing together knowledge, insight, and good practices from across the sector in Asia, and leveraging this for enhanced regional coordination and on-the-ground action to drive decent work and sustainability. With a regional mandate covering South and Southeast Asia, our project focuses on 4 main areas of action: social dialogue and industrial relations, gender equality, productivity, and environmental sustainability. Which brings us then to today's topic on social dialogue. The ILO definition of social dialogue includes all types of negotiations, consultations, and exchanges of information between or among representatives of governments, employers, and workers on issues of common interest relating to economic and social policy. So it's quite broad. But key to the success of social dialogue is that it is based on a genuine respect for freedom of association and recognition of the right to collective bargaining. Social dialogue comes in many different forms. It can be tripartite with government, employers, and workers' organizations, or bipartite between workers and employers and their representative organizations. It can take place at a global level, regional, national, sectoral, or enterprise level, and has multiple forms such as tripartite consultative bodies, collective bargaining, workplace cooperation, among many others. Social dialogue is also a key pillar of the ILO itself, as the organization has a tripartite governance structure with government, workers, and employers organizations having an equal say in the organization's program and the development and supervision of international labor standards. So why is social dialogue important, and why is it particularly important in a time of crisis such as the pandemic? Social dialogue is a key instrument for sound decision-making in a crisis for at least three reasons. First, through information sharing between and among the tripartite constituents, government, workers, and employers, the quality of policy design and strategies for crisis response and recovery can be enhanced. Secondly, it builds ownership and commitment to these policies and easing the way for their rapid and more effective implementation. And thirdly, social dialogue helps create the trust that is needed to overcome differences and enhance social cohesion and resilience as countries seek to rebuild in the longer term. Now, let me turn to some of the challenges and developments that we have seen in the Asia-Pacific region. What we see is a mixed picture with regards to the use of bipartite and tripartite responses to the COVID crisis in the garment sector and more broadly across the economy. Some countries such as Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Korea, Japan, Indonesia, and Singapore have to a greater or lesser extent used dialogue either to formulate commitments or to design and implement policy responses. However, in many countries across the region, governments have unilaterally implemented policies that directly affect workers and employers without having engaged in prior consultations. Some of this may be attributed to the nature of the crisis itself, such as physical distancing and the need for immediate action. But in other instances, opportunities to engage in dialogue were overlooked or ignored. The impact of the crisis, as we all know, on employment and on business is taking a very heavy toll. And in particular, one of the impacts is on the membership of both employers and workers' organizations. So this goes to the heart of the ILO's mandate. So even more seriously, we have seen a number of documented instances where the crisis has been used to discriminate against trade union leaders and members, especially through layoffs and dismissals. And this is, of course, having a disproportionate impact on trade unions across the region. One important message I would like to leave you with in my opening remarks is that we know the crisis and its impact on business, employment, and livelihoods will be felt for a long time to come. So there remains plenty of opportunity for governments, workers, and employers' organizations to engage with one another, to continue to develop and implement the policy responses that will be required in the future. Through collective bargaining and workplace dialogue, workers and employers can find solutions to the challenges around safe return to work, working time arrangements, retention and retraining of the workforce, and the range of other challenges arising from COVID-19. In today's panel, we will hear some innovative and interesting examples of how business and unions are working together to address these very challenges. So thank you all very much for your attention. And now let me turn back to our moderator, Dr. Stephen Frost. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you, Alexandra. Just a bit of housekeeping before we begin. First of all, we always show this chart where everyone's from. There's a lot more people here from ASEAN countries today than normal, but otherwise split between people in Asia and people from Europe and a few others from elsewhere. And you can see there where most of you are from: development agencies, brands, civil society, etc. Just a bit more housekeeping. So the first sort of housekeeping thing is all your mics are muted. That's our diplomatic way of saying that you can't speak. But you can put your questions in the chat box. So if you want to do that, by all means, just use the chat box as you can see on the screen here. And if you do have a question to a specific speaker, please indicate which speaker you are asking the question for. Today's session will be recorded, and we will share a link with participants afterwards. I will try to integrate questions into the discussion I have with the four guests, but if I don't cover all of them, I'm sure I won't be able to, then I will come back at Q&A. I've just noticed someone in the chat box said mostly the Americans are sleeping. Okay, I think it's not a lack of interest, it's just that they're sleeping. Yes, correct. All right, we'll have an exit poll at the end, and so please stay for that, and I'll tell you when that opens. That feedback is important to us, so if you can stay around for that, that would be great. All right, that's enough of housekeeping. Let's move on to our guests. The first two guests I'm going to speak to as a pair. That's Khaing and Gladys. And I'll just introduce both of them quickly, and then when I come to the next two speakers, I'll introduce them when I get to them. So Ms. Khaing Aung is President of the Industrial Workers Federation of Myanmar. She's also the Treasurer of the Confederation of Trade Unions, Myanmar. She left school at 16, went to work in a garment factory, then completed a bachelor's degree in economics by distance education. She's been involved in trade union movements since 2007, has played a key role in negotiating Myanmar's Freedom of Association Guideline. That's something that Alexandra mentioned in her welcoming intro remarks, the FOA Guideline, and we'll come back and talk about that when we talk to the two guests. Khaing has previously been a guest on our online seminars, and she was here way back in late April for our very first one. Joining her is Ms. Gladys Tang. Gladys is the Senior Sustainability Manager for Chibo Merchandising Hong Kong. Gladys has been working on human rights and social compliance for around 15 years, starting out in that role with Ann Taylor sourcing Far East in 2004, and then similar kinds of roles with Eddie Bauer and Warnaco Global Sourcing. She's been the Senior Sustainability Manager for Chibo since 2014, and in this position, importantly for today, has been overseeing the WE program, the WE program, Chibo's own program in Asia, which was initially developed together with GIZ, our host. The WE program's goal, one of the main goals, is to facilitate dialogue in Chibo's supplier factories. And in this capacity, Gladys supported the involvement of Chibo suppliers in the negotiation of the Freedom of Association Guidelines in Myanmar. So this is why we have Gladys and Khaing talking together. I'm going to begin with Gladys to hear the brand perspective, and then I'll get some views from Khaing. So over to you, Gladys. Let me start off with a kind of a broad question and ask you, why is the Freedom of Association Guideline in Myanmar important to Chibo, a retailer from Germany.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you here.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So it's pretty much relates to our company core values. So Chibo, I may need to show some slide if it's available. If not, then I can also continue my, yeah. So it relates to our company values. So Chibo is a family-owned business company based in Germany. Today, not only offers coffee specialties, but also non-food range and services. So Chibo has a strong stance in sustainability and fairness that is based on dialogue and empowerment programs, as well as on sustainable production. So Social Dialogue Project in Myanmar is one of our human rights program in our sourcing countries. So may I have the next slide, please? So why this FOA guideline in Myanmar is important to Chibo's. So with Chibo, with the strong stance of sustainability and fairness, so we aligned with our sourcing strategy based on a due diligence approach. So we carry out the holding, auditing, empowering workers through the V program. So in Myanmar, we have the Social Dialogue Program partner with GIZ and collaborate to promote the right to organize and bargain collectively with our GFA Global Framework Agreement for sector-wide change. Showing respect for freedom of association and having the right tool to do so is essential for the future of Myanmar as our production location. We want to support this actively as Myanmar's human rights record is in the focus of the international community. So it is important to improve the human rights situation in Myanmar, which includes labor and union rights. So may I have the next slide, please? So as Alexandra mentioned earlier in the beginning, Chibo and GIZ had a history to partner with each other. So we share the same vision about social dialogue. And for Chibo, we also need a program on the ground to implement our commitments. So that's how we start the social dialogue program in Myanmar. So from the slide, you can see some layout, how we start, how we combine, how the involvement of the trade unions in the process. So what I'm going to do is not going to walk you through what's happened in the program, for the slides, but it is for your background information. So I would like to share why Chibo want to have this social dialogue program in the country. So Chibo strongly believes the social dialogue is an effective and sustainable way to improve the human rights condition of the industry. So by involving different key stakeholder voices to discuss the topic that matters to them, not matters to Chibo. So we learn from our experience from the code of conduct and monitoring approach that to improve the human rights condition of industry, we need the real implementation in the factory and a sustainable engagement from management and workers. For the workers' voices to be integrated on a permanent level, implementing the FO8 and the right to bargain collectively is essential. So building up legitimate workers' representation, if this is the workers' choice through unions, is key to achieve lasting improvements. So that's how Chibo and GIZ start the dialogue program.
Right. So what kind of support do you give suppliers on the ground for this level of dialogue? I mean, what kind of things are you doing in the factories to foster a sense of social dialogue?
So the fundamental element we see is to building trust and to have the management and the workers and their representative to understand by talking through what they think is a start. And through this program, we also face some, maybe I can also share my personal experience through this program, yeah? So if I think back when the COVID just start in Myanmar early, I think around April, which is also the new year of the country. So for Chibo, we contact our factory, we call them up to want to know how are you, how you cope with the COVID, how the production status, etc. So during this time, we receive a message, or let's say the factory share their challenge and frustration with us. So at the moment, they frustrated about the unclear and short notice from the government. They don't know how to react. And at the same time, they are facing some orders, challenges from different buyers. So they share this challenge with us. So for us, we hear what they tell us and we give them time and we trust them. They are able to do that. So we give them some advice. How about you discuss your challenge with your workers? And you have the worker representative. And in Myanmar, we call WCC, the Workers' Committee members. They discuss with them. And at the end, they find out a joint solution. So this is how they share how dialogue or conversation among themselves to solve the problem.
Yeah, right. That's a nice example. So by having this sort of platform of social dialogue in place, they feel more comfortable in speaking about these kinds of issues with you, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does social dialogue figure into kind of purchasing decisions that Chibo makes? Is that something that you think about when you're assessing a factory, thinking about using them as a supplier?
You mean selecting factory?
Yeah. So when you and doing sort of pre-approval for factories, is social dialogue something that you take into consideration?
Well, that is in the progress. Mean not at the first gate, but on the second gate.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Gladys. I'm gonna jump to Khaing. I don't see any questions at the moment that I can throw at you, but I'm going to come back to you during the Q&A session. Okay. So now I'd like to hear from Khaing. Khaing, you would have heard Alexandra mention the Freedom of Association guidelines earlier. I'd like to ask you a broad question. How is the FOA guideline a good example of social dialogue? Is Khaing there?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, the FOA guideline is a good example of the effective social dialogue. So I really see and believe a good social dialogue in this process, because as Myanmar, in Myanmar, we do not have a culture for many years, the social dialogue. So, and related with the labor issue, we are weak in the tripartite and bipartite dialogue. And even in the basic level, at the factory level, employer and the workers, they are not, we don't see much in, they have a good relation, good dialogue in the factory level. There are very few. So the FOA guideline is a good example for the effective social dialogue. Yeah.
What's been the value to the garment sector of the Freedom of Association guideline? Khaing, you're on mute. Can you? Yes.
Hello, can you repeat
Yes.
your question again?
Yeah, sorry, you're on mute. So
Yeah.
what's the value to the garment sector as a whole of the Freedom of Association guideline? Yeah,
can you describe it in another way? Your question.
So why do you think the garment sector has supported the Freedom of Association guideline? I know not all the garment sector has supported it, but why have certain factories supported this Freedom of Association guideline?
Because the FOA guideline will be very useful for the factory and the workers. Because in Myanmar, the employer are facing the difficulty with the union. A union also have a challenge with the employer because they don't know how to build a good relationship. Like I said, there was no social dialogue in Myanmar for many years. And now we have a labor organization law, but in the labor organization law, did not mention how to recognize unions and how to build the dialogue between the employer and the union. The labor organization just mentioned how many people you can form the union and how to apply the registration, so that people do not understand. People do not understand how to respect freedom of association. So, sorry, there was a noisy, so I cannot concentrate.
Are you able to open your camera, Khaing? You're on mute again. You need to open your microphone, Khaing. Okay, it's off again.
Hello.
Now it's on. Can you open your camera? Yeah, okay, now we can see you. Okay.
Where are we? Sorry. Okay. So we do not have this dialogue chat, and FOA a good relationship. So because FOA guideline clearly mentioned that a meeting, after meeting what they should do, so that it is very good the union.
Your microphone has gone off again. Can you yeah, okay. When we spoke before, you talked about the importance of this social dialogue platform with regard to COVID-19. So when we talked last week, you were talking about how important social dialogue was for being able to respond positively for COVID-19. Can you talk to us a little bit about coronavirus, social dialogue, and the FOA guidelines?
We are facing a very difficult situation with the pandemic, and during that time there are many disputes in the other manufacturing, especially layoff cases and dismissal cases, factory closure. So in many cases we see there are violation of freedom of association. That too. And also the walkout rights trying to cut some cash benefit for workers according with the union. A lot of problems that industry. So if we go in this way, country where we suffer because the cases increase more and more. There we have a many cases on violation of freedom of association, so that case can be used on the country. Country is violation the worker rights, so we may face the economic sanction like before, and our people also will lose job. So that how we can work together in implementation of freedom of association will help to improve the situation.
Right. Gladys, can I come back to you? Because I've got a question here from the chat box. Abdul Mansour Azad has asked you, how, as a brand, so how does Chibo evaluate the practice of social dialogue in a sourcing factory? This is for Gladys Khaing. Gladys, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
So,
did you catch the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for the questions. And so first of all, the social dialogue is not a tool for Chibo to evaluate. This is a tool for factory to support themselves, because we see that auditing cannot help a factory. And that is why we see that if factory management and workers, if they can talk about the issue, that is a sustainable way for them to look at the human rights condition of the factory. So what I would like to say is social dialogue is not a tool to evaluate.
Right. Yeah, nice answer. Okay. I've also got a question here, also for you, Gladys, while I've got you here. I mentioned one of our previous speakers was Nazma Akhtar from Bangladesh, working for a trade union. She says to you, Gladys, good to hear from Chibo. I would like to know in how many factories, how many of your supplier factories have union and collective bargaining agreements in your supply chain, where the WE project has played a crucial role, particularly in Bangladesh. Maybe you know Nazma.
Yes, I heard about her name from my colleagues. Yeah. So thank you, Nazma, for the question. And regarding the numbers, I need to check. I don't have the number on hand right now. Regarding the role of WE project, so as I mentioned earlier, this is a tool or platform for workers' representative, including trade union, if the factory have, to talk about the issue that matters to them with the management. So I would say this is supporting the freedom of association and our commitment to the Global Framework Agreement.
Right. And I've got one more for you before this is from Rabia Razak. If a supplier has the capacity to meet an order, but doesn't have a trade union or an elected workers body or some other organisation within the factory, will Chibo still do business? And then does Chibo help them adopt such a process if they don't have these things in place? And if yes, what are the key lessons in terms of acceptability, transparency, and credibility? There's a lot there, but the first one is, do you still do business with factories that don't have trade unions?
Yeah, thank you for the questions. So first, we realize what the meaning of freedom of association, please correct me if I'm wrong. We have so many experts here in the panelists. So the freedom of association means workers have choice to join or not to join on their few choices to a union that they wish to have. So that means we do not impose anything to anyone to do anything. So this is all their free choices.
Yeah,
so maybe
right.
Kamsa, can you help step in to help me regarding this? I think you have better definition maybe regarding freedom of association.
Oh, no, let's not get the ILO in here with a technical definition just yet. They can come back at the end if they really want to.
Okay.
Khaing, I've got a question for you before I move on to Mr. Suryadi from Indonesia. Khaing, this is from Sothirak from Cambodia. And the question is, how would you describe your relationship with the government and or with factory management? Khaing. So let me just repeat it, Khaing. How do you describe your relationship with the government and with factory management?
Yes, with the government, we have a national tripartite dialogue forum where we can talk but the function is too weak. Can submit our thought with the employer and government, but government decide whatever they want to do. And even in the labor law amendment, even though a trade explain the National Convention, and that's why we want to amend the law in line with the ILO Convention 7, but include in the draft in extent. So we have very difficult relations right now. There is a chance we can meet with the government. And then with the employer, so very few employers who try to work with us in building of the relationship at the factory level with our member union. Because in Myanmar, they see many strike. The employers see many strike, and when they see the strike, the case, they see our people and the strike action. I mean, our organizer or negotiator are helping helping the workers. We have a system. We have a township union. So when we see a strike, when we got a call from the workers, even though they are not our member, we go and listen to them, why it is happening, how we can help to finish the strike as soon as possible. So we are helping the not dispute, but they see us everywhere. The employers see us everywhere, so they're afraid. They think the strike are happening because of the our organization. But after negotiation, and mind change their attitude. So they come to visit their factory, and they request to involve in the negotiation at the factory level when they need. Yes.
Okay. Thanks very much, Khaing. That's a very interesting answer. I'm going to now move on to our next guest, our third guest, Mr. Suryada Sasmita. Mr. Suryada is the owner of a factory, PT Indonesia Wakol, in Bogor. which until COVID-19 specialised in women's undergarments. He is also the Vice Chairman of the Employers Association of Indonesia, which is more commonly known as APindo. He recently supported the brokering of a new joint commitment with garment, footwear, trade union federations in Indonesia, along with APindo, API and APRISINDO, amidst COVID-19, a new agreement designed to protect business as well as safety and welfare of workers in the export-oriented garment and footwear sectors in Indonesia. I should just point out as an aside that Mr. Suryadi has worked with another former guest on this series, Eli Siliban, who is the president of the Confederation of Indonesian Trade Unions, or the KSBSI. She was a guest in our 5th dialogue on making gender equality a reality. So welcome to Mr. Suryadi. Are you there? Mr. Suryadi, can you turn on your mic? I can see you, but I can't hear you. Ah, beautiful.
Already.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to start off by asking you a very broad question, Mr. Suryadi.
Yes.
What does social dialogue mean to you and your business? So I'm really asking for your factory owner perspective. And what does social dialogue look like on the factory floor? So if I come into your factory, what would I see that would tell me that there's a good social dialogue in place in your factory?
Okay. According to me, the social dialogue is very, very important. Our company, before the COVID-19 also, we almost in the few years, or more than over 15 years, 20 years ago, we have the social dialogue between the management and the union. Why the social dialogue for us is very important? Because we can improve the communication. This is the, in Indonesia, I'm learning some problem come from the miscommunication. That's why the social dialogue for me, we want to put this, the improving communication every month. The second is the how to make the commitment of to make the motivation to achieve the goal of the company target. Otherwise, if without social dialogue, the employees doesn't know what is their goal, what is our company goal, what is the target. So we have to open everything. And then also we have to build the harmonized relationship, because in Indonesian people especially, the most important is if you know each other, you trust each other, you believe each other, it's more easy to solve all the problem.
This is this comes back to the concept of gotong royong, right?
Gotong royong, right. This is gotong royong. This is Indonesia gotong royong.
Yeah.
And also, by doing the social dialogue, then we can make it the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, with mutual trust, not the pressure from the company. Right. This is the most important, because in Indonesia, not so many companies have this CBA. That's why now the APindo already just 2 weeks ago we make this agreement with the ELI. The IOA and the ITUC.
Can I come back to that in a moment? I want to finish on the agreement, okay?
Okay.
Can I just bring you back to your factory? Just speaking as a factory, factory owner.
Okay.
So your factory is nearly 40 years old now, right? 38 years old, is that correct?
38, right?
38, right? And you've had a collective bargaining agreement in place for 15 years.
Yes.
Is that
yes.
right?
Yeah, right.
So what you're talking about, the benefits and the investment, in that.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about how that, has that collective bargaining agreement made your factory more resilient during COVID-19? Has that kind of paid off for you in COVID-19?
Okay. You want to know what Indonesia worker can survive?
Yeah,
right. COVID-19.
Right.
Yeah. But this is a very nice story, because this is a very luck for me. Actually, maybe I'm not clever, but luck. Because number one, we can produce modified the product from the underwear to the mask. We are already selling 2 million pieces. This is a mask in Indonesia from the Indonesia Waffle. Number one. Number two, we can still export to until this December, because we already made this the contract 6 months ago or 1 year ago. So our export still can doing very punctual. Second is that we modified this one, the mask. Number three, we can reduce all the expenses. For example, the entertainment, traveling, and then and also the unexpected the cost. That's why our factory now still can running. We never the PHK, we know lay off this because we are thinking we produce this now. Usually our stock, the normal stock is only a 6 to 7 months, but now our stock is a 24 months. Because I don't want to lay off the employee. But this is very lucky. When we have this big stock, now after open the market, we put all our stock in the store. We have about 400 store in Indonesia, and then the customer, because they already boring in the house, they some now coming to the shop. But they see our many product, our new product, and our the basic product. Then our sale is very good. Only 3 months we have this problem: March, April, and May. In June, I already have about the 50% compared to the last year.
Yeah. See. That's very interesting.
Yeah. And then one more thing. The most important is that we are doing the online business. We expand the online e-commerce business. The increase is 400%. This is amazing.
Yeah, I think online business is a topic of itself. I'm really fascinated by this factories starting to sell online. It's very creative, it's very innovative, and I see it as part of the future. I see a lot of this in China, particularly at the moment.
Yeah, but in Indonesia, actually the online business, if you maintain same as the before, you're not the creative, means the result maybe only 2 times. Why we can the 4 times? Because some of the offline people, we transfer to the online people, this one. So means that we work 24 hours, and then we keep all the stock in all the e-commerce business. I put more stock. That's why the customer like to buy this from the online.
Thank you. I want to now come back to the question that you started answering before. I've just seen one of my colleagues telling me that Ellie is is attending the webinar. Hello, Ellie. So I just want to come back to this question, sort of an industry question, right? As from the perspective of your APINDO vice chairmanship.
Yeah. Okay.
This agreement for business and workers. Can you tell us about how you think it will strengthen social dialogue and how you think it might change things on the ground? So how does it strengthen it, and what will it change?
Yeah, I think I'm very lucky because Ellie is the person who really the very fair, the win-win minded. Yeah, some of course some union is not like that, but some is very good. So I'm very lucky we have this Ellie. Ellie always say to all the staff in my factory, means during the pandemic, you have to work more better than before, more aggressive to be the ownership, and then also the make the good strategy. So during this pandemic, Ellie staff more often come to my factory to social dialogue to solve the problem. They always ask me, "What is your problem? Let's sit down, let's talk." That's why that's why I said social dialogue is very important, especially during this pandemic, because.
So I'm sorry to cut you off there. I'm really trying to keep us in time here. But I've just got a question, Mr. Suryadi.
Yes.
This is from Bev Hall. And Bev asks, did your collective bargaining agreement support the change in production from women's intimates to masks? And were those changes negotiated? Was this something that you talked about with workers before you decided to start making masks?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. Frank speaking, when we said to our staff, workers, I want to produce masks. First, they are rejected because they said we don't have this experience. Maybe looking or maybe the efficiency. I said, don't worry about efficiency. Yeah, because our company during the pandemic is not profit oriented. It's the how to keep. Yeah, you are working, and then we start by day by day. The first month, the efficiency is only the 50%, but the second month 75%. The third month now already 100%. Now they're happy. They can produce the mask. It's not easy to persuade them because when they don't hit the target, because they don't get this the incentive. Because we give the incentive if they hit the target. That's why, maybe I don't get any incentive, something like that. But yeah. But however, this is the solution. I said to keep all the people, we also can survive. We also can survive. This is one of the solutions.
I've got a question here from Chen Yan Liu. I know Chen Yan for very many years. Chen Yan is asking Mr. Suryadi, what challenges did you have in developing social dialogue? Did you get it right at the beginning? Were you successful at the beginning, or what challenges did you face? Did you make any mistakes? Did you about the beginning? How did it work?
I think of course when starting, so many mistakes. Because the problem for the social dialogue, is sometimes this one the gap between the employee and the owners, the understanding, But we have to be patient, We have to repeat many times. Sometimes we have to explain one by one because the workers, they are only thinking, I want to get the big salary, I want to get the high salary, I want to get it, but day by day, we have to explain who paid your salary. Your salary you pay is yourself, not the I paid. It means if your productivity is high, you can get more. So I met this one. This is the Japanese culture. We have this every morning. We call the morning meeting. Only 10 minutes.
Okay.
Now morning meeting 10 minutes. 10 minutes. It means that the manager have to say, yesterday the achievement is like this. This group A can achieve 100%. This group B 90%. This group C 80%. So everybody have to understand. Number one, number two, number three. Then we approach to the number one, number two, number three. Then this is just a morning meeting to make this motivation. Second, it's a weekly meeting. Weekly meeting is we have to every week we have to discuss what is the problem the last week. So the managers should have this problem solving. Otherwise, if they don't give this problem solving, then next week is again we repeat the same mistake. So this is weekly meeting, and then we have the monthly meeting. Monthly meeting is the more to the concept, more to the future. It's not only the result, but what is the next month we want to do.
So daily, weekly, and monthly.
Yes.
Mr. Suryadi, I need to stop you here for the final speaker. Okay. I think very energetic, very passionate business person from Indonesia. I love this conversation very much. I really want to keep on talking to you. But I need to switch over to our final speaker today. We do have some questions to come back to you later, Mr. Suryadi. For the Q&A session. So our final speaker today is Mr. Amirthan Suntharilingam. Amirthan is the Bangladesh country head for Hotline Manufacturing Group, specializes in fashion lingerie, swimwear, casual wear, and nightwear. It's a Hong Kong-based company. It's got 11 production facilities across Bangladesh, China, and Indonesia. interestingly, Amirthan was one of the signatories who collaborated with ASMA with a collective bargaining agreement between the company and a trade union in Bangladesh. So Nazma Akhtar was on our 5th dialogue as well with Ellie. So she's been with us before and she's here today as well. She just asked a question. Prior to his Bangladesh work with Hotline, Amirthan was with the company in Indonesia, and before that he had managerial roles with MAS Holdings, Mass Holdings, and Brandix. And I presume both of those were in Sri Lanka. Is that correct, Amirthan? In Sri Lanka? Yeah. So welcome, Amirthan. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I'm going to ask you a similar question to what I asked Mr. Suryadi, which is, so I've got a similar question to Mr. Suryadi. What does social dialogue mean for you and for Hotline? And what does that look like, on the factory floor?
It's a good question to answer. If you want me to answer in short, I will say you will see a lot of happy faces. And what do we really mean by happy faces? That I will try to break it into 3 key points. Number one is that we have an improved industrial relations, in between our management teams and our team members on the production floor. Before this one, we did have a mechanism, but the way how we integrated, collaborated, and worked together as a team, always needed some sort of improvement. And I think this really gave us the pathway to move forward. Number 2, if you see our company is always an advocate for women leadership, starting from a CEO, our sales director, most of our key sales heads, to everybody. They are all females, and we wanted a tool to make sure that when it comes to manufacturing, you will pretty much see male-dominant factories, but we would wanted to to bring a lot of female leadership in the production floor. Why? Is because 85 to 90% of your employees will be females, and they always stitch and do the necessary work to make the business running. So it gave us a tool to develop female leadership on the production floor. Number 3, it is a win-win thing. It's productivity for the company and productivity for the employees, right? We start to grow in our efficiencies, we start to grow in our skills, automatically your company's productivity grows. So, if you see, it's always, you will have happy faces around.
Yeah. I mean, when I talked with you last week, one of the things I discovered was that you've had a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement in place in one of your facilities for 2 years, and you've just negotiated a new CBA in another one of your facilities in Bangladesh. What made you decide to do this? And what was the motivation in Hotline to go ahead with this?
Everything, Dr. Stephen, starts with a need. When we have been in operations in Bangladesh for 20 years, and we have been in business for nearly 30 years, we understood that, we can connect better with our value-adding layer. A collective brain is always good, because if you would want to look at long-term sustainability, and as I told you, if you would want to go fast, you go alone, or otherwise, if you want to go long, right, you go together. So we chose the other way around, and we were looking for a tool how to integrate with our workforce and to work more better. We were beginners, we had our own mechanisms to integrate with our workforce. And when we understood that there was a collective bargaining agent was getting formed, we took it as an opportunity to understand more and to learn more and to see then how it can benefit the workers and how it can benefit the company. So we took a very inclusive and a learning approach towards it, right? And if you see, my learning has been for 2 years. right? And it has been a very good learning so far, and still there is a lot for us as a company to learn, a lot for us, our team members, to learn in terms of this journey. It is a tool that what we use to build trust, and it's a small example how it starts. Trust given is trust taken, right? When we was forming this collective bargaining agent, Sister Nazma Akhtar knew that we didn't know much about collective bargaining, we didn't know much about trade unionism. Rather, she taking advantage on this one. She spent most of her time educating us, especially the management team, in terms of what is it, doing the right thing, the right time, and the right way, right? And she gave her first hand in terms of trusting us that, we will learn. And that gave us the spark for us to learn more, to integrate more, and to drive more. So for us, if, as a business, we were a little selfish to use this tool for us to empower our people, right? To build trust and respect among our teammates, and to make sure that, we have an ownership model built around the business. So we are still working on it, and there's a long way to go, and we are, willing to go that path.
That's so interesting. I'm going to ask you one more question. I've got many questions for you, but I've only got time to really ask one more question. Then we're going to open it up for a bit more, a broader Q&A. But what advice would you give to other firms that might be interested in what they're hearing here from you and Mr. Suryadi in particular as factory owners or managers? What advice would you give to other garment firms on the or other apparel industry people on the call and don't know how to get started? How do you get started?
Listen patiently, listen to the needs of the value-adding layer, listen to your employees, right? They have a call, they have a genuine need, understand that genuine need. Invest that time rather looking at that one as a nuisance or a hindrance of what you would want to achieve, because you will not achieve anything by yourself. You can achieve a lot with a team. So invest in that time, right? Invest in your employees.
Yeah.
If their understanding is wrong, if you think it is not aligned with a common purpose, spend some time in educating them, right? There's no harm in putting some mind, time, and money in terms of bringing the people around. When people really get aligned, it's a process. What you see as an agreement is just a piece of paper written down, but we have agreed, but that is not so. It is that process of aligning people together. It's that process of understanding each other. It's that process of understanding everybody's strengths and weaknesses together, so that we can weather through harder times and good times. So invest time in listening to your employees. Our business demands a lot of time to spend around the customers, spend around the stores, spend around the world, understanding how the dynamics are. But don't forget, it's an ecosystem, right? Everybody has to live.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I've been writing down some notes here, some very interesting things you're saying. Thank you very much, Amirthan. I'm now going to open it up to everybody, but this is a question for you or for any of the other three guests. This question comes from Dr. Liang Xiaohui. Dr. Liang is asking the panelists, do you think that the pandemic, do you think coronavirus has had any impact on social dialogue, positive or negative? Amirthan, do you want to, very short answers, just give me very, do you think the pandemic's had an impact on social dialogue?
Yes, it has. It has given a very positive impact. We have been very, transparent even more than, because when things are going all right, you tend to talk a little less, but when things are not right, it is that collective thinking that you have to bring to the table. So, I see this as a very positive impact, especially for us.
Sounds like a bit of marriage counseling there. When everything's going fine, no need to discuss things.
Sure.
You need to start discussing when things are not going fine. Mr. Suryadi, do you have any comment on that? You know, has the pandemic had any impact on social dialogue, positive or negative? What do you think?
Yeah, according to me, it's no problem. During this pandemic, I think everybody more understand. Yeah, without you are telling them this is the pandemic, this is a problem, they already know the problem. That's why if they know the problem, how we know the problem, then we can talk more easily. This is the, according to me, the pandemic social dialogue is no problem at all.
Right. Khaing, are you still there? I need to see if you're still there, right? Yes. Khaing, do you think the pandemic, do you think coronavirus has had an effect on social dialogue? Are you talking more?
Yes, it does. Okay. Yes, it. In Myanmar, it is negative impact. And we have tried the dialogue mechanism to build the dialogue mechanism in some factories, but now I see many the owner they change the union. Before they have a regular meeting, they always discuss the union in some factory, but now they did not discuss with the union, and wherever they want to make a decision for their factory, they did. For example, they want to cut some the cash benefit from the work, yes, and they want to change the tiger system. They change without consultation with the union. That's why we have more problem in this pandemic period.
That's interesting because Dr. Leon had a kind of a follow-up question to that, and he was asking, is this making the trade union side and the business side more willing to engage in dialogue? But you're suggesting the opposite. You're suggesting that it's harder. Well, do I understand you correctly?
Asking me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. For us, we need dialogue more than ever in this time. We all in the individual employer and the employer organization and the brand. We want to negotiate, we want to be consulted. Whenever employer need to change, we are working in the factory, but it is not successful. It was not successful until now. And I want to give you a good example of the negative impact. And in May, in April, the factory want to close the factory 2 months. They don't want to pay at all. But there is a union, our union. They have a regular meeting before. That's why they said they will not pay at all. And then we involved in the negotiation. We suggest to negotiate on wage if they want to close 2 months. We can decide there is a minimum wage, but we can negotiate less than minimum wage because we have support from the EU, some support from the EU, so the worker can apply some funding from the EU fund. So that's the suggestion, but the employer refused. They did not, they listened to us, but the next day they make an announcement not to pay for 2 months, factory was closed. Then what happened? We labor officer, and we complain. We have a right to at least minimum wage. So in the May, after 1 month, the employer have to pay minimum wage.
Right.
And yes, the allies, they have to pay them at least minimum wage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very, very quickly, can you tell me what would make it better? what would improve things in Myanmar during the coronavirus right now?
I think the employer, at least they should discuss with the union, whatever they want to do. I now do not see the Myanmar Employer Association cannot help it. That's why I approach to the brand to encourage their supplier to have a dialogue with the union in this very important time.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. We've still got some questions, but my colleague Lisa has opened a poll. There's a poll in the chat box. If you could please answer that, it would really help us out. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to keep on asking people questions. I'm going to come back to Mr. Suryadi. Mr. Suryadi, and then I'm going to come back to you, Khaing. But Mr. Suryadi, Monica Eigenstetter has pointed out that in some Indonesian factories, you have trade unions that compete with each other for membership. And she's asking, how do you deal with that, that you have different social dialogues being conducted at the same time? How do you manage that? Mr. Suryadi, it's a very Indonesian issue. Mr. Suryadi?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, mute. Yeah, mute.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, in Indonesia, a lot of the labor union, actually, the biggest is only 6 to 7. But among them, still so many the federation. Of course, everybody, they want to get the members, even though it's not their field. Suppose Gartek Eli this is Gartek, a garment textile.
Right.
Then for me is the suitable. But some from the metal or from the other, they also want to come to join to the garment. So this is according to me, this is the ILO have to explain to all the union. You don't take to another another portion. For example, if your garment, you take the garment and textile. Don't take the car. Don't take the property. Something like that. Nowadays, they're confusing. We also confusing. Some are from another union. They don't understand about the garment. They don't understand about textile. But they want to come. This is that's why I always say to the Eli, now you have to be strong. All our members should be your members. Otherwise, if suppose you only take the 30 to 40%, still there another 50 to 60% is not under union. Of course, the other union want to take this balance. That's why the union must be very strong and then explain to all the workers what is the important if you become our members. Frankly speaking, we are the owner. We are very happy if we have the union, because union is the bridge between the owner and to the employee. If I have to talk to the employee, it's one by one. Because my employee, we have the almost 3,800 among all. Maybe I have no time. You see, that's why I need this union.
Understood. Understood. Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated situation. I appreciate. It's an interesting question. Khaing, and maybe Gladys too, right? But the question is to Khaing. Khaing, do you think that dialogue was better in the factories that took part in the Freedom of Association guideline development process? And so, in factories producing for brands like Chibo that took part in the FOA guideline process? Khaing? Yep.
To comply the FOA guideline, it will be very, very useful and benefit for the factory and workers. But without having the proper education and enforcement to the supplier, it will not be happening. That's why we need more education program. We need monitoring system, and we need to have some program to support the factory and the union together, run in IWFM, so that we will have a good, better social dialogue mechanism in Myanmar, and we can improve the worker rights in the factory and the trade union rights.
Understood. I'm going to give you the last question. So this is to Amirthan from Hotline in Bangladesh. How did you negotiate a collective bargaining agreement during COVID-19? What was the biggest learning process for you during that process?
It's easy to negotiate face-to-face. But when you don't see the person, but when you talk through electronic means, it's slightly challenging, right? So you have to choose, you have to be very short to the point. You have to be a little bit more respectful than what it is. So that was a learning for us during that period. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. So during that period, there was a lot of volatility in the surroundings in Bangladesh. In a country where the rumor comes very fast, right? It was a little tiresome for us to really, to convey our message in a very positive way, because certain things that you might choose to disagree, right? But we made sure that that is not because of the pandemic, that is because of our long-term plans. So it is, again, as I said, that was the learning for us to be better negotiators, to to bridge that gap with our team members during the negotiation.
Thank you very much, Amirthan. And with that, I'm going to bring our conversation with our four guests to an end. We've only got 4 minutes left, and I've still got 5 minutes of things to do. So thank you very much to our guests. We appreciate your time, and I really wish I could talk to each one of you for much longer, and maybe one day we will. So it's now just my pleasure to wrap up. Normally this is where I come on and give three takeaways, but because I'm also moderating, I don't really have time to write down my 3 takeaways. I just want to wrap up some things that really struck me as I was listening. The first one was this, that factories learn about social dialogue sometimes from the trade unions and the worker representatives. Both Mr. Suryadi and Amirthan both said that at their beginning stage, they relied upon the trade union or similar body to educate them about what social dialogue was. And to enter into that kind of relationship requires time, patience, and trust. And I think this comes to the heart of social dialogue. Amirthan talked about you need time to do this. It's not something that can be rushed. He talked about patience and the need to sit down and talk. Mr. Suryadi said the same thing. Amirthan was talking about guidance from Nazma Akhtar in Bangladesh, and Mr. Suryadi is talking about guidance and help from Eli Silaban in Indonesia. So there's something really there about having an organisation who understands what social dialogue is to hold your hand and to sit across the table and take you through that. I mean, Mr. Suryadi was very passionate and enthusiastic when he talked about when Ellie comes into the factory, she has a particular attitude. I want things to work, and I get that sense also from Amirthan in Bangladesh. When they're talking with Nazma, I sense a lot of respect there. I sense a lot of willingness to listen, to learn, and then to see what benefit this has for the factory. Amirthan talked about a win-win, talking about value-added layers. Connecting better with value-added layers. So that really struck me as, if you're thinking about this process, there are certainly actors out there in your communities that can assist you with this. A couple of other things that was really the main thing, that was sort of one big point that I kind of got out of this. But I just have to say one thing that Amirthan did say that really grabbed my attention, which was tapping into the collective brain. Collective bargaining agreements, freedom of association, social dialogue is about tapping into the collective brain. The collective brain is worth something. The collective brain is a supercomputer. And this takes me back to my days of thinking about Toyota and lean manufacturing. Lean manufacturing is not just about reducing waste. Lean manufacturing is bringing workers into the process of thinking about how does this enterprise work and how could it do so more efficiently, effectively, and productively. And when you bring workers into that process, the collective brain is amazing. And then the last thing, I'll stop here because my time is almost up. But the last thing was not to think of this as a process, not to think of this as a piece of paper. A collective bargaining agreement is a piece of paper, right? Yeah, sure. It's more than that. It's a process, and it's a process of social dialogue. And the collective bargaining agreement is this little thing that comes out at the end, but it's the process that's important. It's the process of having the patience to talk, the patience to listen, the time to do it, taking the time to do it properly, and listening to the genuine needs of people. We're kind of all in this together. Anyway, that's my wrap up. On behalf of the organisers, GIZ Fabric, and the partner for today's dialogue, the ILO's Decent Work in the Garment Supply Chain Asia project, thank you again to our 4 guests, to all of you. Thank you for taking questions. There were a lot more I couldn't deal with. Thank you for your enthusiasm, your insight, and your intelligence. And thank you to all of the people on the call for staying into the end, listening to what I think was a very interesting session. We will see you all next time, and then until then, may good fortune be on your side, no matter what side you are on. Thank you.